I would say the space industry is quite active and quite special.
There is no job where you don't have multidisciplinarity. You have to be curious and to not just do what people ask you to do.
Every day I start working on communicating a new project. It's a completely different work for me.
Every field you can imagine, you can find a way to have an impact in space exploration. The number one difficulty is to find what you really like and what you really enjoy. If you found what you like, then the most difficult step is already done.
So really, go for it. There's something in space that I think unites people. There's lots of countries involved there, and they all work together amazingly well. I think it's way more important than we realize. I'm hoping for a bit more women in the space industry because we are not that many, and sometimes when you see panels, it's all male, and you think, okay, are there any great women? And yes, there are. So I'm looking for a more diverse space community.
And to go further to the moon, to Mars, and so on.
We really produce something which people want. The data our satellites deliver to our end users is something which makes a difference even to everybody's daily life, because every weather prediction you see on your smartphone, on the TV screen, does rely on the data we deliver. And being part of that process, of that organization, is great. My job is to make sure that the original user requirements of the National Weather Services are finally being met by the satellites being flown in space. A user requirement could be, for example, high resolution wind speed. And requirements engineering makes sure that the final satellite, the instrument, the ground processing all work together such that the wind speeds which are produced meet the requirements of our users. I think Darmstadt, and especially the area, offers a lot for work-life balance. You can go in 20 minutes, you are in the middle of the Odenwald, in the forest. You can go hiking, you don't see anybody. I personally do a lot of mountain biking there, and I can even hike to work. And on the other hand, if you want to see city lights, you drive 20 minutes and you're in Frankfurt. And if you want to go even further, you're at the airport and you can basically fly everywhere from there.
I work at EUMETSAT as a remote sensing scientist, and my focus is on sea surface temperatures and sea ice surface temperatures from satellites. So I've always been interested in science and the environment, but I wanted to do something that meant something and that actually helped people. So working at EUMETSAT gave me the opportunity to combine all of these different interests. I think the job I do here makes a difference in the world, as well as affecting weather forecasts. It's also important to understand a changing climate. So we need to know the best possible knowledge of our ocean and the ocean's health so that we can monitor it and then understand how this may change in the future.
So the most exciting and rewarding part of my job is obviously when we have a launch and we get the first telemetry into the ground segment we just built, and we have the first payload telemetry coming in and the first products coming out. This doesn't happen every year, but we are working several years towards such a target. I believe the job I do makes a difference, especially when you watch weather forecast on the TV in the evening, which is made with images or data we provide from EUMETSAT. And also, for example, in the recent hurricane events in Florida, we provided support to NOAA to do their own forecast and see where the hurricane would go. So I really think it makes a difference.
Since the 1980s, OIP's sensor system has been an electro-optical partner for years. OIP developed custom-made high-performing optical payloads to provide images of planets in renowned missions, such as Probe 1, Mars, and Venus Express. Our compact visual monitoring cameras are used to monitor the effective performance of space mechanisms and to make scientific images to be studied down on Earth. OIP's spectrometers support ESA and other space partners in planet observation missions, such as Probe 5. Those spectrometers are also used by scientists to analyze the Earth, Mars, and Venus atmosphere on board of Altius, Nomad, and Swan. If you are looking for high-performance visualization from Earth to space, OIP is your partner by excellence.
Space is part of our lives today, bringing many benefits. In the near future, space will become an even more important part of our lives. Bringing these benefits to us requires numerous technologies to work together. Space Application Services has been developing and delivering technology-enabled services, bringing the benefits of space to Earth for more than 30 years. We plan, prepare, develop, and operate equipment in space for our customers, such as the European Space Agency and NASA. Our strategy is to identify the right question, do the research, and develop the most suitable business solution. Today, we already provide anyone regular and frequent access to space. We open the door to research and manufacturing of novel products that do not exist on Earth. We train the astronauts of tomorrow, and we keep those working in space healthy and safe. We provide technology for in-orbit construction of low Earth orbit space stations and platforms. These will be the industrial powerhouses driving tomorrow's emerging markets, providing advanced materials and medicines. In the next decade, not only will we harvest the resources that are plentiful in space and which are depleted or scarce on Earth, but human settlements in space will use these resources to sustain their lives. Our technologies are improving life on Earth by predicting space weather events that can damage our electricity grids. Our astronaut exercise devices help to rehabilitate injured persons, and our robotics replace humans in hazardous environments. This is the near future. Space Application Services will be a part of it. We'll be happy to work on this future with you.
Travailler au pôle spatial Rtdi, c'est faire partie d'un espace de travail stimulant, offrant de nombreuses opportunités professionnelles. Milieu à haute plus-value, le pôle accueille des entreprises internationales dédiées aux applications spatiales. D'un côté, le centre essai de l'Agence spatiale européenne à Rtdi. De l'autre, le parc d'activités économiques de Galaxia, développé par Idelux à Transine, qui comporte un centre d'entreprise, un incubateur de start-up, l'ESSEC Galaxia, l'Eurospace Center, le Galileo Integrated Logistics Support Center de la Commission européenne ou encore Rtdi 7. Ingénieurs, équipes pluridisciplinaires, startups et étudiants, des hommes et des femmes venus du monde entier s'y côtoient chaque jour au sein d'infrastructures modernes et innovantes, d'où naissent des projets de grande envergure, comme la gestion de l'opérationnalité des stations du système Galileo. Travailler au pôle spatial Rtdi Transin, c'est faire partie d'un espace de mobilité situé au cœur de l'Europe. Entouré de grands axes routiers et le long de l'autoroute E411, le pôle bénéficie d'accès fluides et rapides depuis Namur, Bruxelles, Luxembourg et tous ses environs, en voiture et via les transports en commun. Travailler au pôle spatial Rtdi Transin, c'est faire partie d'un espace authentique et naturel. Lieu de gastronomie et de patrimoine, la région entourant le pôle offre des occasions de sorties variées, telles que le festival de Chasse-Pierre, la foire agricole de Libramont, Libin et son musée Mudia, ou encore le village du livre de Rtdi, ses infrastructures sportives modernes, son cadre naturel propice aux balades et ses nombreux lieux touristiques comme Bouillon, Bastogne, Durbuy ou encore La Roche en Ardennes. Travailler au pôle spatial Rtdi Transin, c'est faire partie d'un espace culturel porté par de nombreux centres urbains rapidement accessibles. Namur, Luxembourg, Liège, mais aussi Marches, Rochefort ou Libramont. Situé à seulement 40 minutes du pôle, Namur propose une vie citadine dynamique et de multiples activités culturelles, musées, théâtres, expositions ou encore concerts. Travailler au pôle spatial Rtdi Transin, c'est faire partie d'un espace de vie de qualité pour développer un réseau de connaissances et fonder une famille. Logement à prix accessible, proximité de centres hospitaliers ou encore universités, haute école et écoles internationales sont autant d'atouts essentiels pour le bien-être des habitants de la région. Vous aussi, faites partie du pôle spatial Rtdi Transin. Rendez-vous dès maintenant sur investinluxembourg.be.
My name is Nicolas Hartman. I've been working for 3 months here at Rtdi Belgium in Transin as a ground system engineer.
My name is Lise Mouton and I am a recruiter and employer branding at Rtdi Belgium.
My background is engineering for 5 years, and the purpose of my job is to be sure that there are not any issues with the infrastructure on the Earth for the signal coming from space.
Well, my background is a bachelor degree in human resources management, and I joined Rtdi Belgium 2 years ago, firstly with an internship of 1 year, and now for the undefined contract.
I chose Rtdi because I really wanted to work in the field of space, and after my master thesis, they asked me if I wanted to join the team, and I said yes directly.
First of all, I was afraid because I didn't know nothing from the space domain, but colleagues explained me their job, the duties.
I loved space for a long time now, so I wanted to work in not only for passion, but to work. Every day is different because you don't know what really you have to do. Sometimes you have to plan to go on travel somewhere. Sometimes you have to work on the project.
I chose to join the company because they were open to a junior profile.
What I really like here, it's a family-sized company, so it's not too big. So it's really easy to talk with people if you have an issue or something.
Everyone knows everybody. We are around the same age, and there's good atmosphere, good ambience.
There's strong knowledge in the Galileo program. So for a young engineer as me, it's really interesting.
It's exciting to work for a space company. Everyone can have an access to join the space domain. So why not you?
Space and its exploration has fascinated humans since centuries. We send a few space probes in the solar system. We have even sent robots and rovers on Mars surface to explore it. And we even had a few city trips on the moon. We also have people living in space in the International Space Agency every day since a couple of years now. But the next step, the step further to learn more about space is definitely to go on Mars and to have manned exploration of Mars. How easy is it? Can we just take our lunch packet with us and go on Mars? No, definitely we cannot do that because we need for our life oxygen, water, and food. And those elements represent massive amount of weight that we cannot just send on Mars. So we need to recycle the crew waste to be able to sustain their life during space exploration, long-term space exploration. And this was the idea that was developed in the MEDISA project by the European Space Agency 25 years ago now. In the MEDISA project, the scientists are trying to build an artificial ecosystem that will allow recycling all crew waste, urine, CO2, but also fecal materials if needed, to produce oxygen, water, and food to sustain life of crew during years of mission. In the University of Mons, we are working on oxygen production based on cyanobacteria using different nitrogen sources. University of Mons also participate to this space exploration and try to develop new methods to follow and optimize oxygen production by those microorganisms. Those projects also have a lot of application on Earth because treating nitrogen waste, urine, for example, using cyanobacteria is also a major challenge for space, but also for Earth application. If you want to learn more about this, just follow my talk about the MEDISA project and the human implication in producing oxygen in space using cyanobacteria. See you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure. Unfortunately, the sound of the promotion video was not that good. Let me give you the floor. Give the floor to Mr. Dominique Tillmans, who will give introductory words for this topic. We are in topic 6, space security and defense. Dominique, the floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Sabri. Well. Good evening wherever you are, be it in Belgium or somewhere else in the world. Some of you are joining from very far countries, and I checked today, Japan, United States, Tunisia, of course, with Sabri, Finland, Paraguay, China, Nigeria. So there are many countries, but also many European countries. So we have today 340 registration on Zoom. This is really marvelous and it's great. It means simply that space links us behind the borders. students and young professionals, this event is made for you. And do you know why? I will explain to you. Well, we observe from our visit from numerous universities with space experts that most of you love to watch launches of new spacecraft, love to see movies and pictures from space, love to see astronauts working on a rocket, but many, too many, don't think to embark in a space carrier. And this is strange. It's strange and it's unfortunate, as the sector is in good shape and continues to actively recruit. So where is the problem? You are attracted by space, but you don't think to work in the space sector. I see personally two reasons. The sector is too discreet and stays too much into its inner cycle. The second one, the career perspective within space greatly expands today into numerous fields: medicine, economy, agronomy, biology, defense, security, law, application. The diversity of its scope is not yet well known, and it's still difficult for students and young professionals to find an overview of the numerous possibilities of job in space. This is the reason why the Super Belgium Switch team decided to launch the second edition of Switch to Space. Switch to Space is an event organized on 8 days with more than 40 experts. And as Sabri says, today is the day 6. And the topic is about, of course, you know, it's security, space security and defense. The speakers will share with you their expertise, explain various opportunities of career prospect in space. They will share insights into their individual path, their job, their vision of the future of space in an accessible way. It's just to help you to make the best choice for your future career. And you know, keep this in mind, keep it. In the next future, most of the careers, most of the job will be linked to space. Yes, 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 switch to space definitely is the key that opens the path of the possible. Make your professional life exciting and enjoy Switch to Space. Thank you. But before leaving the floor to Sabri, I would like to present Sabri. Sabri is the leader of the topic 6, but I must say that Sabri is above all a pillar with me of Switch to Space, and we work hand in hand for the success of Switch to Space. He is project advisor at the European Commission Research Executive Agency. He is in charge of the evaluation and the technical implementation of space projects funded by the European Commission. His portfolio includes Earth observation technologies and applications, GovSatcom, and instrumentation for lunar exploration. Sabri was instrument scientist during the last Columbia shuttle flight STS-107. He holds a PhD of engineering from the Vrije Universiteit van Brussel and a Master of Space Science and Techniques and Sciences et Techniques from the University of Liège. Sabri studied mathematics and physics at the University of Tunis, and he is an alumni of the International Space University. So, Sabri, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dominique, for these kind words, and thank you for everything, actually, for being a support for this event, which is an educational event. And I need to thank all the speakers. Let me just, before introducing the speaker and the topic, give a few words about you for the people who do not know Dominique Tillmans. 27 years of career in the politics, active involved in the space sector through chairing the space group at the Senate. This is where I met her a few years ago when she told me, how can we do something for Belgium? She was leading the European Interparliamentary Space Conference. She launched Newspace 6 years ago to link space experts to students. Currently chair of Rtdi, board member of Rtdi Belgium, member of the advisory board of SP and VP of the International Aeronautical Federation recently. Congratulations for that, if I didn't tell you yet. Today we have a very exciting topic and extremely talented speakers, I hope. I will introduce them one by one, but let me first give you the idea of this topic. Since many years, we see popping up, this company is space and defense, but students do not know what is space and defense. And I'm afraid sometimes they do not know what really the space domain is offering. So we wanted to bring several building blocks to bring all active people working, let them be institutions, industry, startups, companies, and we wanted them to have an educational speech to introduce all these topics. I'm delighted to have with us people from various organizations. And let me first introduce our guest speaker, who unfortunately will not be able to stay a long time with us. We have with us from Prague, Mr. Pascal Claudel, Acting Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the European GNSS Agency. Mr. Pascal Claudel's mission is to ensure efficient and effective management of the agency's Galileo service, EGNOS, and lead the agency's operational corporate activities. Mr. Claudel has over 30 years of experience dedicated to the space sector in position ranging from strategic to operational in Arianespace, Starsem, Thales, Alenia Space. He will be as well seconded by a colleague, Flavio Sbardellati, who is a Market Development Technology Officer at the European GNSS Agency, where he has been working since 2015. He is responsible for Downstream, the GSA Market Development Department, where he leads the activities related to this user uptake, coordination, and market development in the governmental sector, embracing space components ranging from satellite navigation to secure satellite communication system and services. We have as well with us Mr. Gilles Lequeux. Mr. Gilles Lequeux is an electromechanical engineer from the Vrije Universiteit of Brussels. He also received a master's degree of business administration delivered by the European University of Paris. He came to European Commission in '96, was officer in the field of energy research and technology under the EU Framework Program for Research and Innovation. He was also responsible for the development of the European strategy and international cooperation. More recently, he joined the Galileo and EGNOS program and contributed to the development of the European Union SatNav policy and the definition of strategic orientation. His current position is in DG Defis, Defense, Industry and Space. Mr. Gilles Lequeux is in charge of the development of the European Union quantum technology policy for space-based application. We will have, as a case study, we will have as well with us Mr. Nicolas De Quattro, Head of Engineering and Innovation at Rtdi Belgium. He has a background in telecom engineering and remote sensing and has worked for 12 years as system engineer for telecommunication, EO, science and navigation mission. In the last 5 years working for Galileo's second generation, he has been involved in system engineering activities, among other topics, for development of new secure communication concept and experimental payload concept design. We have, and I'm delighted as well to have with us Mr. Sergio Albani from SATSEN, EU SATSEN in Madrid. Mr. Sergio Albani is the head of Research, Technology Development and Innovation Unit at European Union Satellite Center. He is in charge of implementing a new operational solution in the space and security domain, looking at the whole EU and collateral data lifecycle. This is performed by exploiting new data acquisition systems, secure SATCOM, emerging technology, and innovative EU-based solution. He's responsible for several H2020 projects, as well as ESA point of contact and geo principal alternate. Mr. Albani holds a master's degree in physics, astrophysics, and space physics branch, and a second level specializing master in journalism and scientific and institutional communication. We will have as well with us Mr. Benoit Depere, founder of Aerospace Lab. In 2017, after previous employment in the small sat department at NASA Ames Center as a young YGT at ESA ESTEC, he was as well hypersonic UAV project lead in the consortium with Dassault Aviation and a research associate stay at IMD Business School in Switzerland. As we can see, we cover very talented and extensively bright people. Floors is, of course, first to our colleague in GSA. And I would like, before starting the speech, I would like to address a general question to Mr. Claudel. This is a question that students always wonder and want to know. How you ended up in space, before maybe giving your speech, how you ended up in space. Is it by chance? Is there a romantic story behind it? We see extensive years of experience. Would you just introduce yourself by explaining how you ended up and a small advice for students? Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
So yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your introduction. First, before answering your question, I would like to thank you, Dominique Tillmans, and you for inviting the GSA to this conference. It's a great pleasure for us to address the young and coming generation for the space world. We need to have the young with us. You know, the future belongs to the GSA, but it's not possible to do the future without you. So yes, I work in the space for about 22 years. I started in the launch sectors after my engineering school. So why I go in this way? Easy. In fact, I was attracted by the space, by the planet, by the exploration. And so at the beginning, I find a job in the launchers. And so for me, the launcher was the only means of transport to go to the other planet. And so it's why I work on this way. And also the launcher allowed to launch a satellite, to launch a robot to go to the planet. And so after, in my career, I work with Rosetta, for example. It was a huge work because you know the success with Rosetta. And so at the beginning of this mission, it was not possible to use the European launcher, Ariane, for this mission. And we need to adapt the launcher to launch this satellite. And so we succeeded to adapt the launcher. And after, it was a success for the probe. And so in this field, it was very challenging, motivating, and each launcher is different. And it's why I stay in this field. And after a wide experience in this sector, I decided to go in the satellite, mainly in navigation and Earth observation satellite, because for me it's a challenge for the future generation. As you know, and also it was a challenging program. And so, you know, today it's a success for both Copernicus and Galileo, but we need to continue to increase the services of these programs to support better our future generation and to have a better life on the Earth. And so it's why I'm passionate by the space. And so I can say we need to have a young professional. We need also to change our mindset. Sometimes, to have a new student with a new idea, more entrepreneurship idea, because today we have a lot of program in orbit as Galileo, as Copernicus, but also we'll see with Flavio, we have GovSatcom, and we need to use data now. We have all infrastructure in the EU. Now we need to go in the use of space data. We need to develop apps, to develop receiver, and to have a good product on the market, on the world market. And we need to have a EU leader on the world market. And so it's our challenge today. We are not exactly here. The US is very performing on this field, is mainly due to the funding, but today with the Commission, we have several EU tools. We have also a big budget for the next 7 years. And it's a huge opportunity to develop this area. And so we need to have young people in this startup SME, to go in this way. So just to finish, I use this opportunity to deliver some word about the GSA. The GSA is the EU agency. As you know, it's an agency. It's an operational agency. Our mission first is to operate and deliver services of navigation system by satellite, as you say, EGNOS and Galileo. In our mandate today, we need to have a continuity of services. Is our job. It's a very challenging job because we need not to have a disruption of the system if we want to use our system in the world. And as you know, we have a big competitor with the US and China, and so we need to reinforce our system. We need to increase the robustness of the system and also to increase the range of services. And it's why we are here today to discuss on that, because our next mission is to put on the table the governmental services, and so we work on that. The second activity we have, it's also the security activities. As you know, the security activities is now an important activity. We need to secure infrastructure, but not only that, we need to secure also signal coming from space to be sure we can deliver these services all the way to the users. And the last but not least, it's our job in the market development. It's a huge job. We are here to promote the use of space data and also to foster the innovation in all EU countries. We are not here not only for the 4 big countries, but for the 27 countries. And also we are here to support startup and SMEs. And I can say during the COVID-19 crisis in the first semester, we are mobilized to support our industry, but also SMEs and startup. And our success with SMEs and startup is to deliver an apps, Galileo Greenland apps, to facilitate the movement between countries inside the EU. So I would like to say for the governmental services, we have 2 major services in the coming years. The first is PRS, is Public Regulated Services, governmental Galileo services. And so the services is almost ready, and now Flavio work a lot on the users market, and we will have some detail on that. It's very challenging. We need to involve all member states, and so it's why we need to have all the force with us, and it's why we wait for you. Regarding GovSatcom, it's a secure telecommunication system. Is a new system. We have just started to work on that. The objective is to gather all means existing in several member states in the EU to serve all member state. And so we started not too far, but today we have already 12 countries, and so it's a success, and we wait to have all EU member states on board. So to conclude, I would like to underline also it's important to increase the synergy between all space program, navigation program, but also Air Force aviation and communication. With all space program, we can deliver full EU tools, and with that, we can have EU tools on the world market. It's our objective, and Flavio will deliver that also today. And also important to say we can increase our tools if we use the commonality we have with the digital technology, such as artificial intelligence, but also quantum for the telecommunication. So thank you a lot for your attention. We are here for any question you have, and now I will leave the floor to Flavio. Thank you, Flavio.
Yeah, please. Thank you very much, Pascal. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very pleased to be here with you today and guide you through an overview of what the EU Space Program can actually offer or will be soon offering to governmental users. Today, in the next few slides, I would like to guide you through three main topics. Time is limited, therefore I will try to be concise, but as much as possible complete. The idea is to, first of all, explain what the EU satellite navigation, also known as GNSS, is, and in particular what the Galileo public regulated service is. Second topic will be about secure satellite communications, and in particular the upcoming EU initiative, which the director already mentioned, that is GovSatcom. And last, which is most important, I would say, I would like to give you some kind of preliminary, I would like to share some preliminary consideration with you to understand how the various components of the EU Space Program can actually best cooperate for the benefit of the EU missions and citizens. Now, that being said, I hope that all these will leave you some food for thoughts for future, and possibly this will inspire you for the next steps in your career. So let's start from satellite navigation. Now, let me say that satellite navigation, GNSS, is today used much more than what you can expect. We all have GNSS. We all have GNSS chipsets in our pockets. GNSS is used in all our smartphones, all smartphones that are sold on a worldwide basis. So we are speaking about billions of devices that are commonly used on a daily basis by all of us. That's not only the main purpose of GNSS. It is, GNSS is also kind of a fundamental technology which is used in all modern cars. This feature is somehow helping us with basic functions such as turn-by-turn navigation. And as you might know, it is kind of driving also the process to achieve the concept of autonomous driving, driverless vehicles that will substantially change our lifestyle in the next future. It is also a key enabler for safety concept in air navigation, airplanes. GNSS helps to reduce, optimize, reduce cost of kind of improving precision in ground seedings and harvesting. And in the same way, GNSS is used in its capability to provide very accurate timing, is able to synchronize telecommunication infrastructure, as well as kind of enable very precise, very time precise banking transactions and so on. Now, all this information and much more you can find in a publication that at the GSA we prepare on a biannual basis. So every 2 years, we publish a report which is the GNSS market report, which contains very, very and well-recognized information about what the GNSS market is about, what is the size, what are the actual benefits per specific market segment, and so on. Now, from another perspective, the GNSS is also extremely important for the society and for the market itself, because it has been estimated that the GNSS already represents more than 50,000 jobs in the EU, which is a quite big number if you consider that the space sector was so far considered quite limited. And it is also kind of quantified in a value of between 6 to 7% of the European GDP. So the space data and GNSS data represent between 6 to 7% of the European GDP, which is a very, very big number. Imagine what is the benefit for the economy and what is also the societal benefit of this technology. Now, that being said, GNSS as such is a technology which is somehow able to provide worldwide services in terms of positioning and timing to all users. Okay. One of the services which is actually provided by Galileo, that is the European GNSS, is named Public Regulated Service. That is a service which has been designed purposely for governmental users. And this is somehow a service which is meant to serve users who have special needs in terms of robustness and capability to work in harsh conditions. Now, first of all, as it was said already before, at the beginning of this conference today, first of all, what do we mean by governmental users? What is a governmental sector? Well, here you have a representation, which is not meant to be exhaustive, of what the Galileo program actually mean by governmental users. So here you can easily see that by governmental user, we mean a range of users who have special needs, who have needs that are somehow driven by specific critical missions that they represent, that they undertake. You see here that governmental users for PRS range from law enforcement, meaning Coast Guard, police forces, but we also have ambulances, civil protection, fire brigades, and we also have key infrastructure. So key infrastructure represents all the infrastructure that have whose somehow known operation has an impact that is particularly relevant for the society. So here we refer to telecom infrastructure, to banking, to electric power grids, and so on. And we have critical transport. So here we have a concept of transportation of hazardous goods rather than high volume of cash. And we have, last but not least, we have the full defense sector. So military forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, and so on. So these are the target stakeholders which are supposed to use services that are designed with clear robustness concept in mind. So these are the design driver for which PRS was designed, and these are the users that will be using PRS as soon as it is available. Now, what is PRS exactly? So as I was saying before, PRS is a Galileo service, but it is a Galileo service with some peculiarities. The first one is the fact that it is an encrypted service. So in order to access this service, the user have to be somehow enabled and have to be provided with special material. it is not a service for all. It's a service for those who are granted access. And in addition to many commonalities to other Galileo services, to other GNSS services, which basically provide position, velocity, and timing information to the user, PRS is able to provide very specific features. The first one is basically the possibility to ensure access management. So users can be segregated, users can be granted access, in the same way they can be withdrawn access. And another important feature, which is one of the most important kind of differentiator offered by the PRS, is the fact that PRS is a service which, in case of interference, can ensure a certain likelihood of continuous availability of the signal. So in case other signals are somehow disrupted, PRS will have a certain likelihood to continue operating and to continue offering services to the users. And last but not least, which is a consequence of using this service in encrypted manner, it provides authentication. It means that the position and the timing which is provided to PRS users is actually authenticated. So the source of this information is ensured. And the information itself is guaranteed within the specific uncertainty of the accuracy of the service, of course. Now, given the sensitivity of the service and given the target stakeholder which this service is meant to serve, actually, of course, access to PRS is subject to a number of rules that are laid down in specific legislative acts. The most important one being the PRS Decision 1104, which basically defines three main pillars. The first one is that each member state, before granting access to any user in their country, has to nominate a specific function, which is called Competent PRS Authority. Okay. This Competent PRS Authority will have the authority to decide to whom grant the service, and at the same time will have the duty to verify that the use of the service is done according to the rules, and specifically according to the common minimum standard, which define the way how to securely operate the service and how to ensure the security of the service in its perimeter. So that was a brief description of what GNSS is actually, what GNSS is in Europe, and what the governmental service, PRS, is for European users. Now let's move on to the second component of the Newspace program that I would like to explain to you today, which is GovSatcom. Now, first of all, GovSatcom, as opposed to Galileo, GovSatcom is a program which does not exist today yet. It is a program which will be established under the entry into force of the next regulation, which will happen next year. But already today, there are many concepts that have been developed for GovSatcom, starting from the real need. Why GovSatcom is needed? So GovSatcom is a kind of a response of the European Union to provide secure satellite communication to EU authorized users. Let me say that secure satellite communication technology exists today. We all know that there are plenty of satellites transmitting in the sky, both public ones and commercial ones. Especially recently, there has been kind of huge kind of proliferation of new constellations that are aimed at providing satellite communication on a global basis. Now, this is true, but the purpose of this initiative is to serve governmental users, so is to provide secure satellite communication, which is something that today does not really exist in the way how it should be. So first of all, the satellite communication market today is a market which is highly fragmented, and it is dominated by commercial providers. Second point, especially when it comes to governmental missions, it is to be noted that not all the member states in Europe own their satellite communication national system, which means that their specific users like civil protection or police forces or military forces even, they are kind of obliged to make use of systems available from either third parties or from even commercial providers, which means that the missions of those member states are somehow exposed to risks. Because if you're not able to ensure the security of the communication, somehow you are introducing a risk to the mission, which can lead to very, very negative consequences, even fatalities sometimes. So that being said, the Union has decided to establish this new program, and this new program will be actually created from next year, from 2021. Now, for whom this program will be actually created? For whom this program is actually meant to be created? So far, three families have been identified which represent typical use cases that GovSatcom will have to address. The first one is surveillance. So you see here on this right-hand picture, a concept of a small circle which somehow cover Europe that is meant to ensure kind of SATCOM coverage on a very specific region to support mission related to, for instance, land or maritime surveillance, to ensure proper and secure kind of protection of European and national borders. Then there is a second class of use case, which is crisis management. And here we're speaking about situation like big fires, like earthquakes, or like floods, when typically disaster situation kind of compromise the availability of terrestrial network, and at the same time require good connectivity to ensure proper management of deployment and operation of forces on the field to ensure that the situation is recovered. Now, this is something which typically happen on a bit more wider basis, but typically in very, very specific region where the disaster is located. And the last class, which this program will have to address, is the case of key infrastructure. And here we have for sure a concept of key infrastructure which cover very different infrastructure from transport to banking to energy up to space infrastructure, for instance, Galileo ground infrastructure, which have to be somehow ensured in terms of connectivity on a global basis, or near to global basis at least. Now, at the GSA, we have a long-standing experience in working with users, okay, and collecting requirements for new services and evolution of services. And that is particularly important for this program because this is a program which is meant to be user-centric. So this program is not established just for the sake of creating a new system. On the contrary, this program is to be created with the purpose of filling the gaps, and the gaps that have to be voiced by the users. In that respect, the GSA has been entrusted by the European Commission the very delicate task to build the user perspective for future secure SATCOM services, the user perspective of the future EU GovSatcom. In order to do that, of course, that is not a one-man show. This is not something that the GSA can do alone. So what we have done is to gather together quite a huge number of member states and EU agencies who have kind of expertise or interest in defining this important pillar for the program. And in that respect, we have, I have the pleasure to share with you the fact that very recently, on the 15th of September, we have actually kicked off an initiative which is called Entrusted, that is an Horizon 2020 project funded by the Commission under the REA responsibility. And this initiative is based on the 4 objectives that are kind of depicted in this slide. So the very first one is actually to define the user perspective. How? by putting together the relevant stakeholders and defining common understanding on what the user needs and requirements actually are for secure GovSatcom services. Once these are done, what we will have to do is also to define what is the state of the art in terms of user technology, which is currently used today, and what are the gaps in terms of user technology to enable these requirements that we have to fill. And as a result, we will define a roadmap for research and innovation, which will serve for to support the Commission in the important task of defining priorities for research and innovation in SATCOM in the medium long term. Now, this is a very important initiative, which is started already before the establishment of the program, and this is something that I'm sure that some of the next speaker will mention again. Now, as I was saying before, we discussed about GNSS and Galileo. I briefly explained to you what GovSatcom is and why we need GovSatcom. Now, what I would like to discuss with you, what I would like to explain to you, and open for discussion if you want to go further, is to try to understand how, let's say, to try to look at the Newspace program from a wider perspective. Now, first of all, let me complete the picture. GNSS is certainly one important component. GovSatcom will certainly be another important component. But as you might know, the Newspace program also consists of a third very important pillar, which is called Copernicus. That is a European program which aims at providing Earth observation data. Now, that being said, these three components altogether, as you can easily see, they are part of a pyramid which is able to provide the final user with very important information. So Galileo is able to tell the user where he actually is. GovSatcom will be able to connect the user with other users or with assets or with specific element of infrastructure. And Copernicus is able to provide the user with very important information, which is what is around me, what is changing around me. Okay. Now, the good news is that those three components certainly offer very important strategic and performant standalone services on their own, individually. But at the same time, even better, it's important to know that they can also complement each other, they can improve each other, and the sum of the three will certainly be an important asset for the EU, and will create the concept of system of systems, which certainly will create additional benefit for the users. Not only for the users, but also for the system themselves. So, for instance, for sure, there will be new use cases that will benefit from a synergetic use of these three components. In the same way it is important to know that each of the three systems will have to rely on the other two systems in order to improve its capability. For instance, here, take it as an example, it's not meant to be exhaustive, but for instance, it goes without saying that Galileo can certainly provide the timing synchronization capability to the future GovSatcom hub. In the same way how GovSatcom can certainly interconnect in a secure and global basis manner the various remote sites of the Galileo system. Now, as an example, here you have two very simple but concrete and tangible use cases which demonstrate how and up to which extent the three components can actually cooperate to improve the missions of EU governmental bodies. You have here, for instance, a case of emergency response in case of natural disaster. So again, the case of earthquake, floods, or big fires. But the same also applies to other mission in maritime areas like oil spill pollution and detection. These are typical cases of missions which can certainly benefit from Galileo, who can provide positioning of the area where the intervention has to be taken. In the same way, it can provide navigation and remote tracking of the forces who have to be deployed on the field. In the same way, GovSatcom can provide communication between the technical center, so the remote center, and the deployed forces, and also among the forces on the field themselves, because in these areas, typically being there either maritime or kind of land ground area with compromised terrestrial network, there is no communication, no connectivity possibility, and a big need for connectivity. And the same also applies for Copernicus, which obviously can provide very, very complete mapping of the mission area. So again, this is not meant to be exhaustive, but I hope that really with this, I will leave you some food for thoughts for your future kind of thinking. And as the director said before, we really need the brilliant mind and talented resources to develop this technology and to make it available to the users in a more, in the possible wider manner. Now, with this, I conclude the presentation, and we will be happy to answer any question, of course.
Thank you very much for this keynote presentation, really, which introduces actually all the speakers after. We have, like, you make a perfect introduction for everyone. It was very clear. And I will take some question from Q&A. You will see some people are asking very innocent question, and maybe you can help them to answer. Alex Stan is asking, I know it's not the best place to ask, but I think it is of question, but what do you think it's a good master degree to enter Earth observation field, like the Copernicus program? The guy finished a master, and do you think there's a position for him as an internship, for instance? Is it possible? You hear me? What I switched off? Do you hear me?
Sabri, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe, hello, Gilles Queue speaking. No, I will maybe.
We lost GSA.
Sorry? We lost GSA.
The question was addressed.
No, we are still here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Question to them.
Yeah, the first question, some people are interested. They're wondering if there's a future to work on Earth observation in GSA, for instance. People asked in the chat, I don't know, they should have asked in the Q&A.
So about the competency we need to have, we are, as I say at the beginning of this conference, we have several areas. And so we have area for engineering, it's clear. Engineering in several field as security, operation, development, but also we need to have a business competence because as explained by Flavio, we need to develop the users market. For that, we need to be innovated, and also we need to be ready to have a mindset of entrepreneurship. And after we have the other area as communication, as administration. In our agency, we have all activities to manage a whole topic.
So I invite people to have a look at the GSA website. This is
yes, exactly.
This is maybe a question from my side, just to start the discussion. Is there any interaction, I guess there are, interaction with the automotive industry for moving towards the autonomous vehicles in the future, I guess?
Flavio is well positioned for that because in his area he work also on this topic, and so he can answer better than me.
Yes. Thank you for the question. Actually, this is one of the trend of the moment, I would say. So when it comes to navigation, navigation is somehow experiencing a quite significant shift from basic navigation, which typically was used only for informative purposes in the past, and now is getting more and more in the center of the scene, let me say, as a key enabler for a bit more advanced features. One of them is for sure autonomous driving. You know, it's a concept which is being achieved, which is being developed following a stepwise approach. Different level of automation are being kind of enabled over the time. Of course, there are kind of also political consideration to make here, because it is a safety concept which has also non-technical aspect to be sorted out. But it is something which is extremely important. And this also, coming back to the previous question, if I connect the two, is also a good example of what the opportunities that are brought by space data are. So traditionally, the space market was kind of a market which was purely upstream. So concept of infrastructure, satellites, and really space disciplines. Now we are seeing more and more kind of the need of kind of integrating concept of space in the downstream, which means space data used to enable applications. So what are the disciplines that we need to enable application? It's much wider than the traditional space disciplines. It is not only aerospace engineering. It is also about kind of information technology. It is about environmental engineering. It is about any kind of discipline which has something to do with the use cases that we need to enable.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I see a lot of questions. Maybe Flavio would have some time to answer them on the Q&A if there are some relevant questions. I would like to thank you very much.
If we have not enough time, you can send the question and we will answer by written.
Yes. We would like to thank you for your time. I think it's not an easy way to find time from your side for the students and for the young professional. It's very much appreciated. We had a very good introduction to all the rest of the topic. Thank you very much. It's very clear.
If I may, thank you, but also is not a loss of time at all. We need to have young people inside the JSA, and so it's a win-win to have this kind of conference.
I'm very pleased to hear that, and I'm sure that people will browse the website. And I am strongly advise people to go. Prague is a wonderful city. People at GSA are very nice. I personally know Flavio. We enjoy working together. So thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for my part. Thank you for my part. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hosting. Just a final remark from my side. I just wanted to confirm personally that GSA is also a very nice workplace to work at. So feel free to browse our website, and if you have any question, let us know. We will be happy to answer offline. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we will see Mr. Claudel Wednesday.
Of course.
On the last topic.
Mr. Claudel is the guest
on Wednesday.
Here on Wednesday for the topic satellite. You use them every day, so you will know more on the downstream application. I will be there as well, so please don't forget to register to the topic number 8.
8. Okay, thank you.
We move now to Mr. Gilles Lequeux at DGDefis. I think you will go straight forward. Maybe, Gilles, you want to make an introduction on, do you have a romantic story of joining space? I need to unmute you. Just a moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wait. Yes. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying to share my screen. I don't know if it works or not. Just one second.
We have you.
Should work now. Do you have it?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So thank you, Sabri. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting discussion. It's always a pleasure to share knowledge and experience with the young people, the students, and the young professionals. As already said by my colleagues from the GSA, we need you and we need them to continue this fantastic work we are doing in the European Commission, as well in the agencies, including in REA, not only GSA, but also in REA, of course. Yes, as an introduction, my background is engineer. I would like to say that we have also nice positions in the Commission. Of course, it's not very well known that we are also using scientists and engineers to manage and develop the policy of the EU space programs. It's a very complex field. It's very difficult to develop a European Union space policy without such high expertise in the field of space, in the field of electronics, in the field of telecommunication, Earth observation, navigation, etc. It's not very well known. A clear indicator is that you know that we have a policy to recruit trainees. Every year we have two periods of 5 months. We like to recruit trainees, and there is a database, so-called Blue Book database, where you can register, and after your master degree you can register, and we from our side we go to the database, and if we find interesting profiles to work with us in the space field, we like to have engineers, scientists in the field I just said to work with us for that period. I think it's going to be, it could be a very great experience to start your career. Voilà. So now I will, if Sabri, if you agree, I will do my presentation as we are short in time, as I understood. Quantum, yes, quantum. It's a very nice curiosity. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics. It does raise a lot of attention. Everyone now is listening about the development of quantum computers, but also it's many people are a little bit afraid about this new science, these new technologies, because it's subatomic physics. It's very complex, very difficult to understand. And there was a very famous scientist named Richard Feynman said that with students, he said that if you understand what I'm going to explain to you on quantum physics, it means that you understand nothing. So if you understand quantum, you have a problem. But okay, I will not explain to you how quantum physics or quantum mechanics is going to work. No, certainly not. I will rather present to you the European Union initiatives that rely on the use of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, that will rely rather than relies. So let me switch. Okay. First of all, yes, since the new commission chaired by Ursula von der Leyen, including our commissioner Thierry Breton. Thierry Breton is our commissioner responsible for DG Connect, DG Defis, and DG Grow. So he has a very large responsibility and mandate. And both Ursula von der Leyen and Commissioner Thierry Breton, they made very nice statements at high political level, referring to the use and the potential of using quantum as well in the digital policy, but also in the space policies. So you can see that you can see also that quantum is one of the favorite activity and topics of Commissioner Breton. So it's not a surprise that as DG Defis we are called to look at that, to consider those technologies to benefit to the EU space policy and EU space program. So at political level, there is a strong interest, as stated by Ursula von der Leyen, as well as by Commissioner Gruppe. So let me go now to the objectives and the priorities in the Commission. In fact, the interest of developing and using quantum technologies in space and for space is relatively new. It comes more or less together with the creation of DigiDefis. DigiDefis was created on the 1st of January this year, with responsibility on defense industry and space. The main objective of this new policy to develop quantum for space is to benefit the EU space program, mainly Copernicus, Galileo, and GovSatcom, as presented before by GSA. One important element and priority with regard this activity is that we want to ensure European Union non-dependence. And why? We want to ensure European non-dependence because in the field of activity related to quantum technologies that we are looking for, there is a strong security dimension as well as a dual use dimension. So for that reason, non-dependence is a key priority in the development of quantum technology policy for and in space. So another priority today, with some exceptions in the world, there is no real use of quantum in space. China is most probably in the lead of testing quantum, a certain technology of quantum, so-called quantum key distribution technology for securing communication. So in Europe today, the main objective in Europe, but also in the world, is to increase the technology readiness level. So we have to mature the technology of quantum to be used in space. So maturing the technology is fine, but we need also to qualify this technology for use in space. And then our final objective is to test, so demonstrate and validate the use of those technologies in orbit, what is called IOD, IOV, in-orbit demonstration and in-orbit validation. So these activities are going to take place under Horizon Europe program. So for the time being, we are preparing the first work program for 2021 and 2022. And when it will be published, probably before the end of the year, you will find the concrete priorities linked to these objectives. So in terms of topics, we have two main topics at European Union level with what concern quantum. We have quantum sensing, which is one. It's not related to communication per se. It's more the topic we are looking for is the development of quantum gravimeter for Earth observation. This is for use for civil use and for defense use. And the other priority that I will develop a little bit more today is quantum communication, and this quantum communication objective is calling for the development and the demonstration in orbit of the quantum key distribution technology. So without going into the detail of how it works, you know that today more than 50% of the world population is now online. It means that the digital nature of the ICT, information communication and technology systems, makes that part of the population very vulnerable to cyber attacks. And by using quantum, we want to anticipate and mitigate the long-term risk. The long-term risk of being attacked, cyber attacked. So, for example, the development of quantum computers might be a new threat for on the conventional system of crypto. So one way of mitigating the threat of quantum computing is by using quantum technology to mitigate that. And the quantum technology that is used is the quantum key distribution technology. So the quantum key distribution technology provides a secure way to exchange keys between two parties, and these keys are based on random key generation. And the quantum cryptography is a technology that uses, of course, quantum physics to secure the distribution of symmetric encryption keys. So it's a way to better secure our communication and provide by offering an additional layer of protection to be better protected on the longer term and the future attacks. So example of use cases for using. Oh, sorry, I think I'm going in the right direction. I don't know what I did. Okay. Yeah, voila. Example of use cases using quantum key distribution. Of course, one of them is the government data storage and communications. Another one is data centers. Then we like to use, we are looking at using quantum key distribution to better protect communication in critical infrastructure, including energy, transport, but also space assets like Copernicus, Galileo, GovSatcom, and maybe others. And then also better securing synchronization for financial services is another case that we are considering. So now at the European Union level, a bit more than 1 year ago, the Commission has launched a new initiative, so-called EuroQCI. The EuroQCI is a quantum communication infrastructure to be developed all over Europe to provide secure communication services. So at political level, this initiative is now supported by 24 European member states. They all together, they sign a declaration of interest to work together and to all together to study the feasibility of developing and deploying this quantum communication infrastructure to better secure communication all over Europe and also in other parts of the world. So in terms of infrastructure, this is a new initiative. It's not yet a program, it's an initiative. We are studying the feasibility of this initiative. So this initiative, this infrastructure includes a terrestrial network and a space segment, a terrestrial segment and a space segment. So the terrestrial segment is going to be to cover cross-border connections all over European Union capitals using fiber networks for ultra-secure exchange of cryptographic keys using quantum key distribution. And the problem is that these fiber networks on the ground, they have losses, and when the distance between two users is bigger than 100 kilometers, then the losses are too high, and then you have to, then there is a strong interest to use satellites to cover and distribute the keys. In terms of implementation approach that is being considered for this new initiative, as you can see that we are really in the first phase. For the time being, we have launched studies to collect and define and specify the user requirements on the basis of the use cases I presented before. We are working now with industry to specify the user requirements. The user requirements are being consolidated for the time being, and they will be shared with the member states that signed the declaration of interest for adoption. And in the meantime, we are also studying the different architectural options for the terrestrial segment as well as for the space segment. So we are in the first phase, so-called the preparatory phase. Then there will be a second phase that will aim at demonstrating the architecture on the ground, but also in space. As I presented before, we are going to launch and support in parallel activities to demonstrate in orbit the technology. And all this work, at least for the space segment, is being done in close collaboration with the European Space Agency. So the full deployment and first service in operation of this new infrastructure is planned to take place in the 25-27 time frame. So, as said, the satellites can be used to exchange keys over long distances to ground trusted nodes inside one country or over two different countries. But there are different ways to generate and distribute the quantum keys from space to ground. And the choice of the orbit for the satellites, as well as the geographical location and coverage, and in general, the user requirements are key aspects to design the overall system architecture. And that's the reason why studies are now ongoing to study all these key aspects. One way of doing to distribute the keys, you use one single satellite. You generate a quantum key through from a key random generator, quantum generator. And you distribute one key to one user, then you keep the key in memory, you generate the second key in the satellite, and then you communicate the second key as well as the XOR, the logic XOR, to the second user, and then the two users can communicate. This is one way of doing to generate the keys. So the keys are generated in space on the board of the satellite. So the advantage, single link suitable for LEO, so low orbit, and they are feasible with small telescope on the ground. The disadvantage, all the satellites must be trusted nodes. The second way of doing, it's a bit more complex in terms of technology, because here the satellite is going to generate entangled photons. That technology, the generator of entangled photon, is something that doesn't exist today in space. We have to develop the technology, mature the technology, qualify and demonstrate that technology in orbit. That technology is much more suitable for a geostationary orbit. In this case, the photons are generated on the board of the satellite, but the keys, the quantum keys, are generated on the ground. So in this case, as the satellite is in geostationary orbit, the disadvantage is you need much bigger telescopes on the ground, and the technology, the entanglement photons generation is really at high risk for the moment, as the technology really needs to be fully developed. So as said before, the choice of the orbits is key. And you have to consider the two different ways of exchanging keys, and the optimized space system, including the choice of the right orbit, must be studied considering a number of aspects: the user requirements, the key rate you need for the keys, the availability of the service of the keys, the geolocation of the users, the level of security you need, risk related, the technology risk, the level of investment for development, deployment, operation. There are so many different elements to be taken into consideration to design the right infrastructure. It's a very complex study that are ongoing for the time being. So some words about the LEO characteristics, but maybe you know that there are some advantage and some disadvantage of using satellites to generate the keys and distribute the quantum keys from LEO. With LEO satellites, you can cover the complete globe, but only little time per orbit is spent over the Europe. From a quantum key distribution point of view, the terminals, the telescopes on ground and on satellite need fast tracking mechanisms, because the satellite have a very high speed. If you put the satellites at MEO is the orbit of the Galileo satellite, for example. One single satellite can cover the complete globe, but only part-time for orbits is spanned over Europe. So, and in this case, the terminal, the telescope on ground and in the space need again tracking mechanism. Not so fast than LEO, but they need also tracking systems. And then Geo, I think, yeah, Geo. Here, with one satellite, you can cover 1/3 of the globe. With 3 satellites, you have global coverage, which is nice. This geo orbit is suitable for entangled photons technology, as I mentioned before. You can cover the whole EU with only 1 satellite, and you don't need tracking. So it seems that this orbit seems to be very attractive. But as said before, the technology using entanglement of photons is at high risk and very expensive in terms of development. So what is the state of play all over the world? As I said, on quantum communication infrastructure using a quantum key distribution. There are several projects and deployments. China, as I said, is most probably in the lead of the development. You can try to find information on the Chinese project Missus that was demonstrated 2 years ago, and a certain level of performances have been demonstrated. So this Missus project puts China most probably in the lead of the development of this type of infrastructure. There is no professional quantum communication infrastructure network currently in production anywhere. So, but the European Union is developing its strategy via the quantum communication infrastructure, and we think that we are doing this at a very timely moment. So we must also recognize that in Europe, in the European Union, and in the member state, we have all the expertise in terms of scientific expertise. We are most probably in the lead worldwide. So we need to valorize these skills, this expertise, to bring, to develop the technologies that we need to make this quantum communication infrastructure a reality. So now I would like to link this quantum communication infrastructure to another initiative that is the global secure connectivity. I would like to build here on what GSA has said before. Again, it's not a program, it's an initiative, it's an idea. It's an idea that the Commission has launched a few months ago. You can find references to this new initiative in recent speeches made by Thierry Breton, our Commissioner, but also by Ursula von der Leyen in the State of Union. She spoke about the strategic importance for the European Union to develop and deploy a global secure connectivity. Here, the idea is that this connectivity should be the third pillar of the EU space policy, in addition to Copernicus and Galileo, in addition to Earth observation and navigation. And the aim of this new pillar is to secure communication, but it should be satellite-based, and it should provide secure and resilient services. And it should be complementing ground network and provide 5G service all over the world. So in terms of use cases, it should target mainly governmental and institution as a priority, but we are also looking at providing broadband services for all citizens. And last but not least, this initiative is going to call for the use of quantum technologies, in particular quantum key distribution. And as a consequence of this, the EuroQCI, the quantum communication infrastructure, is going to be studied to be an integrated part of this global secure connectivity initiative, or in combination with. So we have published a call for tenders a few weeks ago to study the different options of this secure connectivity initiative that will build on GovSatcom on one side and on the EuroQCI on the other side. Now, I would like to finish my presentation because on Galileo. Galileo is also looking at using quantum technologies. Galileo, as explained before, is providing different services. Some of them are crypted, so some of the services are using keys. So there might be an interest to also use quantum key distribution to better secure the communication and the services provided by Galileo. And for such reason, Galileo is also making studies to test in orbit the quantum key distribution technology and payload. And this is being considered now on the second generation of Galileo satellites. So you see that the perspectives for using quantum and quantum key distribution in general are very broad at this stage in the European space policy for the benefit of the EU space program. And with this, I would like to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gilles. It was a very clear presentation, at least for me. I'm trying to check if we have Q&A questions. I see people silent. Maybe they didn't understand that they can ask one question. Otherwise, I will ask my question. I will ask a general question, which is very broad and maybe to make people understand what is the situation. Do we have in Europe a satellite that is able to test this technology currently?
No, we don't have the satellite because the technology to be tested in space doesn't exist.
Okay,
clearly.
But what
so
about?
we have the plan to use by using Horizon Europe to develop this technology, to qualify the technology for the use in space, and develop the payload, so the quantum key distribution payload, to be tested in orbit in the time frame 23-25. And well, which satellite will be used to embark this payload? This today we don't know, but it's going to be part of our reflection in the coming months.
Very clear. This is a general question, maybe for students as well. They want maybe to know where they need to orient their career should they want to embark. What would be your advice if they want to work on this field? What would be the best company to join? What it would be the
but I listen, this is a good question.
I'm a student and I want to work there. What should I do?
It's a good question. Look, I spoke in my presentation about non-dependency. We have a real problem of dependency today on quantum key distribution. The two leading companies in Europe, I said in Europe, not the European Union, is Switzerland and is from Switzerland, and the other one from UK. So you see the issue. We have a big political issue in terms of dependencies. UK is going to leave Europe, European Union, and Switzerland is not part of the European Union. We want those technologies to be developed, mature, on EU territory for the reasons I said, for the reason of security and for the reason of potential dual use for defense. For those two reasons, we want this technology to be. So as a consequence, we will need the best engineers to work in the companies, and there are a number of small enterprises looking for the best engineers to develop those technologies, quantum-related technologies. I cannot give you the list here of the companies and the small companies that do exist and that present the greatest potential to become leading companies in the European Union. But the potential is really here, is really there for a good career. I can tell you, because the political will is there. The political will is we want to be in the lead of the development of this technology, in the deployment and in the operation in space. Voila. And we need skills, we need the expertise, we need the young, we need the people.
That's the message that I want you to convey to people. So if you're in SATCOM, this is a nice field to move on. Thank you very much. We are running out of time, unfortunately, but discussion is very exciting. Maybe if there are Q&A, maybe may I ask you to answer if you see Q&A relevant?
Yes, I will do. Sabri, no problem. I will look.
Thank you very much. I would like now to move on and welcome Mr. Nicolas De Quattro. He will just explain us how, may I not steal the title from you, just let you explain what you will, an exciting thing, how to protect a satellite link.
Okay, yeah.
How to avoid hacking the satellite as well.
Yes, thanks a lot. So, yeah, and good evening to everyone. So, yeah, I'm going to speak about how we secure satellite links in order to avoid satellite hacking. So, first of all, what is hacking? So, hacking is the gaining of unauthorized access to data in a system or a computer. So, clearly, and this is something that we all are very familiar with when we speak about computers. So we all know what is a hacker for a computer system. But when we speak about system, is something of, let's say, broader. So we can consider a smartphone, even our smart TVs, and nowadays also cars. You know that cars today, they access to the internet, so they can be potentially hacked. So why, first of all, why should someone enter into a system? There could be several reasons. The first reason could be terrorism. So, you know, there are people which can enter into an institutional governmental database for stealing sensitive data or for creating damages to their systems. Or it can be for stealing money. So, for example, enter into a bank, internet bank account and transfer money to their own account. Or it can be just for fun. You know, there's a category of hackers that we call thrill seekers, which are people that just want to have a bit of fun, they want the challenge, and these people can actually do quite some damages to systems. But what does this have to do with satellites? So it is very relevant to satellites because in general, a satellite is a system, although it's flying above our heads. Is a system that serves a specific purpose, which can be, for example, embarking a camera for taking picture of the ground, or can be embarking a transmitter for TV broadcasting. And it's a machine, it's a system that communicates with Earth. And in fact, we use antennas for sending commands to satellites and to monitor the units. Even more, it has a computer on board, and this computer is used for executing the commands, for monitoring all the units, for ensuring the autonomy in case there's any issue. This is the problem. So the problem is that a satellite is a computer with an interface, so it's potentially subject to attacks. And this is because it exposes an interface to third parties. So we have two main ways of protecting a satellite. So either we protect the onboard computer like we do with our computers, so antivirus, anti-malware, or we protect the access to that computer. And this is the subject I'm going to speak about in the next slides. So the first question is, why should someone attack a satellite? Well, there are several reasons. Today, we know satellites in our daily lives because they are important for road navigation or, for example, for receiving the satellite TV signals. Of course, these are things which we can live without, even if they are not available for a couple of hours. But we have to consider that there are satellite applications that go beyond that. For example, search and rescue. So if you are in trouble in the middle of the sea, you can transmit a signal to the satellites in order to allow people, someone to locate you and to come and rescue. Or military applications. So before we have had let's say some speeches on the security of communication for defense purposes. Let's assume you are a soldier and you are in the middle of the desert. The only way to communicate with your base is to use satellites. The same in case you have disasters. In a case of an earthquake, for example, and with the terrestrial networks down, the only way to get access to the internet or even to make a phone call is satellites. But also there are other applications, for example, remote sensing for agriculture. So we use satellites, for example, to monitor crops to see the quality of the agriculture. And this can bring, first of all, cheaper food. But of course, this can allow improving the availability of food in places which are in need. Or lastly, in human exploration. Can you imagine having a transfer vehicle with a crew on board, and this transfer vehicle can be hacked by someone, or even just a moon village hacked by someone on the Earth? So we understand that these topics are pretty important for nowadays satellite application, but then how can we protect the satellite access to space? So the subject here is to protect the communication between a ground station and a satellite. That is like protecting the communication among two people speaking to each other. So what we want to protect is, first of all, the confidentiality. So we don't want anyone to be able to listen and to understand what they're saying. Or the authenticity. So we don't want someone to use a fake identity and pretend to be someone else. Or the resilience. So being robust against brute force attacks. Now, there are different techniques for doing that, and I'm going to explain briefly all of them. So first of all, we can protect the data which are sent through the signals. And this, for example, can be the two people using an agreed language that cannot be understood by others, so that their conversation is not intelligible. Or protecting the signal that transport the data. For example, we don't want these two people to be listened to, and then they could use a flashlight to communicate. Or even more, protecting the security mechanism that allows point 1 and point 2. So, first of all, protecting satellite infrastructure data, when we mean that, we mean protecting the telecommand that we send to satellites for managing, for configuring, for powering them on, and so on, and telemetry, which are the data collected on all the units to monitor how the satellite is working. So we can protect this data in two ways. First of all, protecting the confidentiality, and we do it with encryption. So encryption is a way to ensure that the data cannot be understood by someone, even if these data are intercepted. We do this with a simple, well, let's say simple process that is called encryption, where the two ends, they share the same key, where the key is just a sequence of bits. This key is unique and is only known to the receiver, to the source and to the destination. And the encrypted data is something that is not intelligible unless you have the keys. So in this way, no one can understand can retrieve the original data and understand the encrypted data. Or we want to protect the authenticity. So we want to be sure that the data we receive are coming exactly from the person that we imagine has transmitted the data, for example, our ground station. And we do something that is pretty similar. So we use, again, a key that is shared and unique and known. And we add an authenticity stamp that is dependent on the key that is telling us this data is authentic and is original. Then, of course, we can mix the two, like is done in the standards, and have data which are encrypted and authenticated. Now, there are two problems here that have been already mentioned before. So, first of all, we may have a very long big stream that can be intercepted. And when they are intercepted with a very powerful computing machine, like, for example, a quantum computer, these algorithms might be broken. Of course, there's also the problem of key exchange. So in a way or another, at some point in time, the key has to be exchanged. This process is vulnerable. And then we have no protection against brute force attack. So let's try to go one step more on the signal. So we want to protect satellite infrastructure signals. So avoid that external actors can understand or even replicate the signal. So the scenario is we are on the Earth, we have our ground station, and we have a satellite. The satellite is receiving and transmitting not just from the ground station, but from an area. So this means that if an attacker puts his antenna in that area, he can potentially receive and transmit from and to the satellite. So the only thing that we can do here, and this is the first solution, is to use unknown and unpredictable signal characteristics so that everyone that receives our signal cannot retrieve the stream of bits from them. So this uses advanced technique for encryption of parameters or pseudo-random parameters. When we speak about parameters, we mean, for example, signal frequency or signal code in case of CDMA and so on. This gives also a certain level of resilience because some important and intelligent attacks, which are targeted to certain signal formats, cannot be performed because the signal format is not known. Now, there's a limitation also here because how can we say that the signal format is not known to anybody? So either this is a secret documents, but we cannot trust human beings. So the leakage of information is always possible, or it has to be a kind of exchange that has to be in clear. And this process, therefore, is intrinsically vulnerable. But there's another solution that is to use optical communication. So here we use a laser station to communicate with the satellite. Now, the benefit here is that the satellite is not anymore transmitting into a beam, but it's transmitting exactly through the direction of the laser. So this means that we have a connection that is really point-to-point, and you need to be collocated either with the laser station or with the satellite in order to transmit or to receive. Also, that's a good advantage because in optical frequencies, we have a very high data rate, and we have a very high level of confidentiality for the reasons I've said before, and a high level of resilience because we are robust against radio frequency attacks. The problem here is that the availability is limited by the atmospheric conditions, so we need diversity. So we need many laser stations to be sure that at least one is not covered by clouds. Now, but how can we protect the security mechanism itself? So all the techniques, the majority of the techniques we have seen, they rely on key exchange, on agreement in advance. So none of this can be trusted. So, and the problem, the biggest problem is not that the information is leaked, but that the information is leaked without us knowing. So we will never know with the techniques that we have seen if our communication is secure. There's a solution that is the one that has been already introduced by Gilles, and I'm going to give a bit more details on that. That is quantum key distribution. So quantum key distribution is based on lasers, and it's different from the classical channel. Why? Well, in the quantum channel, we have photons traveling. Each photon has its own state for sending the information. So our main feature that we want is that an eavesdropper that receives our signal is detectable. Now, in this case, if we have an eavesdropper and an antenna emits an electromagnetic wave, this electromagnetic wave can be received by an eavesdropper without us knowing, because we will never know from the signal that we receive if someone has received the signal as well. In a quantum channel, this is not true. So by the laws of quantum physics, if someone receives one of the photons, this will perturbate the quantum communication, and therefore we will always detect if someone has detected our communication. This means that every time we try to exchange the keys, this process either is successful or we will know that someone knows what we are doing. So this is really the edge of technology today, as Gilles has said, and it's really an exciting topic because it takes together engineering and quantum physics. So to conclude, what do we do at Vitrocis Belgium today is to design secure radio frequency systems. This is what we do since some time in Galileo for Galileo second generation, but also we develop attack simulation systems. These are used because we want to develop facilities which are aimed at testing, validating, and qualifying the resilience of systems against electronic attacks, because we don't want just to design a system to be resilient, but we also want to be sure that this system is really resilient, and we want to know to which attacks it is resilient. And this is one of the topics that we are developing is in the project CITEF, funded by the European Space Agency in collaboration with the L'Oréal Military Academy. So in conclusion, satellite hacking is becoming every day cheaper. I challenge you to go on eBay and try and buy some hardware that can allow you to jam a satellite or to hack a satellite. And this, you will see, this can cost as low as a few hundreds of euros. On the other hand, we are relying every day more on satellites, so we need to protect them. There are solutions now that are being studied and implemented. And I want to conclude saying that protecting a service is very important. We have to remember that protecting the infrastructure is as important because without the infrastructure, we don't have any service. So thanks a lot for the attention.
Thank you very much. Stop here. Thank you very much. I have an innocent question from my side. Can you mention one satellite that has been already hacked? Did it happen?
Yeah, well, it happens. I honestly don't remember anymore the name because this is always happening, you know, between USA and Russia in the past, and also many of these episodes are not public.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. No one want to mention this.
Yes.
Maybe, Gilles, you want to complement something on what has been presented? Because I see, I don't know if we still have Gilles with us. Maybe he left, but still.
No, Sabri, I'm here, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No. I try to answer some questions from my side in the meantime.
do you wanna complement the presentation of Nicola? A discussion. I would like to see a discussion between what you presented and what Nicola showed.
On which topic you want to develop?
On securing SATCOM always.
I don't know, Nicola, if you have if you want to bring some specific topic regarding quantum.
Well, I think I think we covered the let's say a similar topic. I think probably the main the one thing that we can complement is that let's say what we have seen with the European programs like GovSatcom and the others, the focus is on securing satellite communications. Now, the focus that I wanted to bring was to secure the communication for managing the satellites. This is a very different topic, but it's very relevant because this topic is transversal to every satellite mission. So if we have, for example, an Earth observation mission for managing, for example, for early warning of disasters, we want this to be always available. And this is, in the end, is not SATCOM, it's not internet or secure communications. So this is really management of the infrastructure.
Well, yes. Do you want to I don't know to which extent you want to see the use of quantum and quantum key distribution in protecting the satellites? This is what you want?
Yeah.
Well, for the time being, the way we are developing the use of QKD is user driven. At the moment, most of the cases in the use of quantum key distribution, how to say, are not really prioritizing on space assets. Let's say like this. It's mostly using space to better protect users on the ground. Okay. Of course, we don't forget that benefit could also be to better protect communication between satellites or from satellites. But this is something that is now being looked at in the Galileo program.
Correct.
But frankly speaking, we are really at an infancy stage of studying this possibility. Now, I want to say that, but something that we didn't say, that there is a big debate in the security community with regard to the benefit of using quantum key distribution versus the benefit of post-quantum crypto. And this is a big debate between scientists, and there are pros and cons on both sides.
Yes.
This debate is really ongoing, and for the time being, voila, there is no real outcome of this debate. But frankly speaking, the position at European Commission, we don't see and we don't perceive the use of quantum key distribution as the only one single way of better protecting the communication. No, we see the using of QKD as an addition of other means and other ways of securing communication. So we want to use QKD as an hybrid, in an hybridization of secure ways to secure communication. This is how we see those developments.
Yeah, it is nice because it gathers together physicists, mathematicians, and aerospace engineers. So it also gives also a nice message to young people that want to join space.
Definitely. Unfortunately, we need to move on because we go to, as we saw from our excellent presentation. I mean, thank you everyone for this nice presentation. Very clear. We had a presentation on GovSatcom as well. We had a presentation on another part that is still important because now we are talking about communication, but still there's a need of images and data. And I'm extremely happy to welcome the two second speakers. Particularly, we will start with Mr. Sergio Albani, who is the head of unit at EU SATSEN in Madrid. He will make a very nice introduction and presentation on what are the activities there in the context of can you please just correct that, because the presentation will be more about geospatial intelligence domain, because we agreed on this, and then we will move on to AI in emergency and security services with Benoit Depere. Sergio, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay.
So good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Dominique Tillmans and Sabri for having invited me to participate to this event. It's actually a real pleasure for me to have the possibility to present a bit some activities we are dealing with, and I do hope that somehow they could be useful for young professionals and students following this presentation. So let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes, we see you. Thank you. It's very nice. Clear.
Can you see the presentation in the right mode?
Yes, it's the right mode, yes.
Great. So, SATSEN and the Geospatial Intelligence domain. So let me start by giving to you a small introduction of what the European Union Satellite Center is. We are an agency of the Council of the European Union, located in the vicinity of Madrid in Spain. And our mission is to support the decision-making and actions of the European Union in the field of the common foreign and security policy, that is a sort of foreign policy of the European Union, by providing products and services resulting from the exploitation of relevant space assets and collateral data. So, as you can see from this definition, we are operational users of Earth observation data, and you can see in the box on the bottom left, which are the satellites we are mainly dealing with. We can use commercial satellites through some agreements we have with member states. We can use governmental sensors and, of course, EU sensors. So in particular, we are making large use of Sentinels. To do what? We are providing geospatial intelligence services. To who? Our users, our stakeholders are, first of all, EU member states and entities, just to mention a couple of them, the European External Action Service and the Commission, of course, EU agencies and EU missions and operations like Frontex and UMM, as well as international organizations like OSHA or the United Nations. So
the presentation is in the first slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. I was thinking that you are scrolling slides. Okay, fine.
So Can you see this one? Sorry, I lost it.
You are not moving to other slides. I see the first slide presentation.
Oh, sorry, there's something wrong. Let me just check 1 second.
Maybe we need to start a new share because it's frozen to the first one.
Yeah, could you please?
I stop sharing and
yeah, sure.
And then start again.
Let me start again. Sharing. Is it okay, this one?
Now I see the first and the second. Yeah, but it's fine. Maybe you can. Yes, we can use this.
So let me check again. Let's try with this one.
I see the first slide. Can you go to the next one, please? Yes, now it moves. Okay, it moved.
So is it correct? You can see just one slide in presentation mode.
Yes, I see one slide in presentation mode, and now I see the second slide because it was frozen to the first one.
Great. So basically, this was the slides, the slide I was talking about. So SATSEN, what we did, the Agency of the EU Council, located in Madrid, operational user of Earth observation data. I presented already the data, the sensors we are using, and the users we are dealing with. So member states, EU agencies, and international organizations. So I was saying that we are providing geospatial intelligence services. So let me just spend some words to introduce what is geospatial intelligence. So geospatial intelligence comprises the exploitation and analysis of imagery and geospatial information to describe, to assess, and to visually depict physical features and geographically referenced activities on Earth. So what we have to do is to organize and to combine all available data that we have around a specific geographical location on Earth, and then exploit this data to prepare products to be used by planners, by emergency responders, and by decision makers. You can see in the image a typical example of the workflow. So we received a task from our decision maker, from our users, and then we acquire data from the sensor I mentioned to you before, and using our know-how and the technology, the latest technology we have available, we provide some reports to them, some products to them. The SATSEN service portfolio. So we have a number of services within our portfolio. I would like to spend, I'm forced actually to spend some words only on the GeoInt and on the capability development once because of timing. So let's start with GeoInt. What we do is to deliver geospatial intelligence products and services to support the EU. And I want to show to you some examples of our application domains. So we provide services to support all the different phases of crisis management. So starting from pre-crisis up to stabilization and peace building. As you can see in these images, we are dealing in a number of domains such as humanitarian aid, contingency planning, general crime and security surveillance, monitoring of critical infrastructures, of military capabilities, of weapons of mass destruction. So these are some examples of domains. It's a non-exhaustive list. You can think to others if you like. But what we do actually to support the decision making of the EU in these domains, we provide them with products obtained by analyzing satellite images. So here you can see some examples of products that we generated in the past. The first one on the bottom left is a multispectral image processing for the detection of illegal cropping. The second one is an analysis of nuclear facilities using the SAR images. On the bottom left, you can see an analysis of damages at an oil field, and on the bottom right, a a mapping of an airfield. So these are examples of products that we generate. These kind of products are provided to member states, and they can this way to make informed decisions. Let me move a bit to the capability development side of SATSEN that is related to the development, enhancement, and evolution of SATSEN capabilities and services. Within capability development are comprised the activities dealing with GovSatcom, with Copernicus, with SSA, but I would like to start with the so-called Rtdi activities. So the research, technology development, and innovation ones, that's the unit I'm responsible for. What we have to do is to implement new operational solutions looking at the cool Earth observation and collateral data lifecycle. We are currently dealing with 5 main work streams. The first one is the participation in Horizon 2020 projects to ensure cooperation. You can see in the bottom of the slide a number of projects we were dealing since 2014 up to now. So from Data Europe to Entrusted, that was already mentioned before. We are responsible for the implementation of the administrative arrangement that SATSEN has in place with the European Space Agency. And we are also responsible for all the activities related to the group on Earth observations, GEO. We deal with the new data acquisition systems, for instance, HAPS, so the high altitude pseudo satellites. We are responsible for explore how secure satellite communications, for instance, GovSatcom, can support our activities. And we are also dealing with new technologies. So we are the unit dealing with artificial intelligence, big data, and cloud computing, for instance, as well as interoperable platforms and so on. The main idea, of course, is to stay on the Earth observation domain. So we are also developing a number of applications. For instance, we are quite active in change detection, processing chains using SAT data. So let me give you a couple of examples of what we are practically doing in Rtdi. The first one, I decided to show an example of the cooperation we are currently having with the European Space Agency. We developed an artificial intelligence-based application to automatically detect linear features, for instance, roads, on satellite imagery. We used here Sentinel-1 data. The results of this study, as well as the outcomes that we are currently having from Rtdi projects, Horizon 2021, are inserted within the so-called GeoDump platform. GeoDump stands for Geospatial Data Access Management Platform. So we decided to develop this platform to guarantee the sustainability of Rtdi results, and at the same time to use it as the SATSEN pre-operational environment for new Earth observation applications. Here is an example that we prepared in the framework of our cooperation with the GEO, with the group on Earth observations. You can see using Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 data, we made an assessment, we monitored the construction of a refugee camp in the Charpia Island in Bangladesh, where the authorities reallocated the Rohingya refugees. So you can see here, this island is also subject to flooding. So you can see all the analysis, the construction of the camp, and also the floodings affecting the security of these refugees. So let's now move to the EU GovSatcom side. As I mentioned, this is something within Rtdi, within the capability development division at SATSEN. EU GovSatcom has been already presented in a perfect way by GSA at the beginning, so I will just remind shortly what it is. Is related to the provision of secure and guaranteed satellite communication and capacity and services to governmental stakeholders. The European Commission is coordinating a number of activities to start shaping this future EU GovSatcom program. Horizon 2020 is founding a dedicated project, Entrusted, it was mentioned before, led by GSA, with 21 institutional partners, as you can see on the right of the slide, so a number of member states plus EU agencies and entities. Entrusted created a network of governmental users. The idea is to produce a set of user requirements and a long-term roadmap, a coordination map for for Rtdi activities related to the user technologies. Here, SATSEN is leading within this project the gathering of user needs, and the idea is through a proper analysis of them to generate this set of user requirements, as well as fields of application and use cases that should serve as baseline for future EU GovSatcom related activities. Let me now move to another EU flagship program, that's the so-called space situational awareness. So we have seen a number of examples of products and services that currently rely on satellites. So satellites must be monitored and protected against threats. It's absolutely key to ensure a safe and uninterrupted service. So at the same time, people on Earth has to be protected against the space hazards, for instance, asteroids. So this SSA, space situational awareness, refers to ensuring security in space and from space. And to do this, SSA is covering three main areas: space surveillance and tracking, space weather monitoring, and monitoring of near-Earth objects. SATSEN is dealing with the first of these three main areas, the SST one, as since 2016, we worked together a consortium composed by EU member states. You can see their logos on the slide, to develop a European SST capability. What's this capability about? SATSEN is the SST front desk. We are responsible for the service provision portal, for the help desk, and for the user interaction mechanism. The services we are currently providing to SST users are you can see some examples here: collision avoidance between satellites, fragmentation analysis, and also the re-entry, the analysis of the re-entry of fragments within the SATSEN, the Earth atmosphere. SST users are typically EU member states, the Council, the European Commission, the External Action Service, spacecraft owners and operators, as well as public authorities that have to deal with civil protection. So we mentioned GovSatcom, we mentioned SSA. Let's move to the third and last EU space program in which SATSEN is directly involved, Copernicus. So Copernicus is the European Union Earth Observation Program, and this program is looking at the planet Earth and its environment for the ultimate benefit of European citizens. Copernicus is providing currently 6 operational services through the exploitation of space infrastructure, namely composed by the so-called Sentinel satellites and third-party missions, and of course, even in situ data are used. You can see here in the picture the 6 services, but let me focus on the security one. So the security one is subdivided into 3 services. The first one is the so-called support to external action, and this service is directly managed by the European Union Satellite Center. The second one is related to maritime surveillance and is managed by the Maritime Safety Agency, while the third one is related to border surveillance and it's managed by Frontex, even if SATSEN is supporting through a service level agreement Frontex in this task. So this service is a European Geospatial Intelligence service that has to assist the European Union and its member states in its operations and interest outside EU territory. So it's basically supporting the decision-making of the EU with regard to EU external actions. So what's happening outside EU. This service finds application in a number of domains related to European policies. You can see on the left of the slide some some examples of domains. So from support humanitarian aid up to cultural heritage related issues. While on the right side, you can see actually the products that we are providing to member states. So activity reports, camp analysis, reference maps, support to evacuation plans, conflict damage assessments. So these are a number of products in these domains that we provide to you member states to support them in making informed decision on external action. Let me finish with this presentation before to conclude with an example of what we are doing, for instance, for border surveillance. This is a product that we provided Frontex with, and the scope of this product was to monitor and analyze the area near a migrant camp to detect a human activity, as well as to improve the situational awareness in the border segment as this area is close to a border. So you can see the analysis that we did, suggesting that there was a high risk for a possible irregular border crossing in this area. So I do hope that I was able to provide you with a good overview of the geospatial intelligence domain. Geospatial intelligence is quite important as it provides a number of key information on what's happening actually on Earth. And this can support critical decision making related to civil security, and also support to shape foreign policy. SATSEN is a reliable provider of this kind of services. We analyze satellite data to face current security challenges, but we are also involved in key space programs initiatives, namely Copernicus SSA and YouGov.com now. So the Newspace program that is key to empower EU space activities and to ensure EU autonomy in space. Let me finish with the importance of Rtdi that is key to maintain EU capabilities and enable the development of operational solutions in line, of course, with the state-of-the-art technologies, as I can imagine we will see in the presentation that will follow this one. So thank you very much to you all. If you have any questions, you can just drop a line to me, or I will be happy to answer directly now on the question and answer panel.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Very exhaustive and clear presentation for everyone. What I suggest is that we move to the next speaker and then we do a small panel on it, because I think what will be presented now is very complementary to what you have demonstrated. And then we answer a few questions. So the next speaker is Benoît Depère. Very delighted to have him with us. We are running out of time, but we will take all the time to listen to this very interesting presentation. Benoît Depère founded Aerospace Lab in 2017, one of our Elon Musks in Belgium. We have several now. We are very proud. He will explain in the context of AI, some case studies for security.
Right. Thanks, Sabri, for the introduction. As you said, we are running a bit out of time, so I will start right away.
No, we take all our time, but I was apologizing for.
Yep. Just let me know if you can see the cover slide.
I see the presentation. Yes.
All right, sounds good. So today I will present you quite quickly what we have been doing in terms of downstream processing of open source satellite images. And I believe it's a great addition to what Sergio just mentioned, that the definition of geospatial intelligence and what we can do with open source data or like the Sentinel and Copernicus archive. A quick overview of our vision and mission at Aerospace Lab. It's basically to enhance efficiency of almost everything by making geospatial intelligence actionable and affordable. And by that, we mean that affordable in terms of pricing, obviously, but also in terms of skill sets needed to perform those GeoInc reports. As of today, you need very specialized people and a lot of education and experts to get the insights and to transform this data into actionable intelligence. And we want to automate that, or at least part of it, to make it affordable for wider audiences. So why geospatial intelligence? Sergio already mentioned that, but basically it's a great tool to observe the full picture. We have satellites that are looking at very high resolution, also broader coverage with medium resolution. And with this, we can monitor basically phenomena that are either at large or small time scale or geometric scale. And there's really a world of applications that flow down from this data. Unfortunately, there are some limitations about the data availability out there. We don't have time to go deep into this, but I will answer some questions in the QA with pleasure. What we decided to do is to implement a full stack solution. So our goal is to provide actionable intelligence. And to do so, we mix data coming from open source feeds, such as, again, the Copernicus, Sentinel satellites, but also social networks and basically data that you can find on the internet. And on top of that, we plan to have our own constellation of satellites to have proprietary data on top of the open one. And this mix of data sets would allow us to have an edge in terms of actionable intelligence. To do so, we are mostly working on the hardware side as of today. So the company started 2 years ago and we grew. Now we are 65 engineers on the payroll, and roughly 65% of those engineers are working on the satellites, while the rest is working on the data processing, which is the subject of today. We have three main use cases, or at least sectors in which we are involved. The first one on the left is what we call environmental intelligence, where we are basically using geospatial intelligence to tackle climate challenges, and basically we are tracking boats that are doing illegal dumping of oil and nasty stuff in the seas and oceans. We are looking for methane leaks from pipelines or petroleum industry plants with Sentinel 5P. Lot of stuff on the environmental sector ongoing, and many interesting use cases are popping up right now. On the other side, we are doing also economic intelligence, which is basically looking at the economic state and the level of fluxes on major manufacturing plants and industry. And we can see that with a lot of processing, satellites can be useful to assess what is the level of activity of big companies and industrial organizations. And this can be exploited by financial analysts, investors, and traders to take better decisions in the market. And then the subject of today is more or less, our primary focus as of today is supporting defense and security with what we call strategic intelligence products that are more or less in line with what Sergio introduced. So I will skip a bit the detailed description to move on the live demo, which is always a tricky stuff to do, especially online. So I will stop sharing my screen and share it again with the demo. All right, I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
So the idea is that we are going to showcase 2 or 3 examples that are coming from the economic intelligence dashboard that we have, because the military intelligence one, it's a bit more tricky to share that with you today, but I have some other examples in the PowerPoint that I can share. So we start with this one, which is basically for insurers. So we have a contract with one of the big insurance company that ask us to develop this stuff. So basically you insert some address, in this case in Belgium. You ask the system to look for it, and we found it, and it's a house. And now it's going to fetch data from official databases of the government, and also to do some computer vision on the images that we can fetch. In this case, it's a blend between satellite images and aerial images. And then we can see that there is the red footprint, which is the official database from the government. And then we can see the construction of the building. There is a slight offset because of some geometry that is not corrected in this specific case. We detect there is a pool there, which is pretty nicely covered by the blue overlay, and then solar panels as well. And we have all the metadata here. Some of the analyses are pretty long, so we do flood analysis, which is quite long to run, so I will skip that part. But basically the idea is that we can process in batch a lot of addresses. We can have this interactive mode where you click on some area and then it updates the computations for this specific area. And you can see in green that is the vegetation that has been segmented. The cool stuff is that we can do forensics as well. So in this case, we can compare the evolution the year through the years. So you can see that the solar panels were somewhere installed between 2016 and 2018, and that there are some landscaping being done on the garden. So showing you this is to give you some example that with a bit of imagination, you can see what we can do on the military side and the security side. Another demo, a fairly classical one, but we have to show it because everybody else is showing it, is object detection. So in this case, we go to near Brussels, and I will zoom in, take some neighborhood there. And then we look at one of our algorithms. In this case, we are going to do something really straightforward, which is counting the cars in some area. So let's draw some polygon within Brussels, tick, and then let's start the computation. So it's fetching GPUs and CPUs on the cloud infrastructure and then running the batch computation. It's for demo. In real applications, we process that in batches automatically, and we don't have to wait for this. So you can see all the yellow and green pixels that are showing up are basically cars that are being counted within the polygon I just drew. 124 and counting. So it will populate all the polygon in a few seconds. We have plenty of algorithms to do so. We are working in the database of military equipment that is populated with a few tens of thousands of different equipment or units, military units like armored vehicle or anti-aircraft missile systems and whatever that we can use in a similar fashion. Another demo, which is more on the economic intelligence side, it's basically this portal where we have a few thousand industrial sites that are being tracked. You can see a bunch of those there. And we are going to look for example, an ArcelorMittal steel plant in Bremen, Germany, where basically we look at the stocks of and the activity of this steel mill. And we can see that it's fluctuating a lot across 2019. And we see an interesting decline in activity starting end of March, beginning of April 2020. If we look at the images, so this is the site that we are looking at. It's a blend between Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 that is used in this specific case. And we have also the time series. All the data points that you see there are linked to the thumbnails, so we can spot if there is some outliers, we can dismiss it right away. And if you look at this sharp decline end of March, we basically correlated that with the social media worker that is there. And we found out that basically in the press, they announced that they were shutting down this blast furnace because of the lowering of the activity due to COVID. So it's a nice narrative that we can cross-check with press articles that are showing us great confidence that what we see there is not noise in the signal, but it's really something happening on this specific site. So that was it for the live demo, and I'm super happy that it didn't crash. Let's go back to the PowerPoint now. All right, I don't know if the transition went back to the PowerPoint. Yes. So the military use case I'm going to showcase now, we selected 2 use cases. Both of them are in Iran. But first of all, it's very a specific subset of GeoInt that is called IMINT, and IMINT is the acronym for Image Intelligence. So in this specific case, we are going to showcase how we use our change detection algorithms to unlock insights coming from Sentinel-2 images and only Sentinel-2 images, which are kind of tough to work with if you are looking for small objects because the resolution is 10 meters at best. And then most of the objects of interest are fairly small. So at 10 meters of resolution, there are only a few pixels in the best case scenario. So the first use case is really to look for nuclear facilities in the world and to detect if there have been big changes in those facilities. Changes like can be in a positive way, like new hangar being built, or in a negative way by having damaged property, explosions, fires, or whatever. So in this specific case, we have a lot of sites of interest that we need to monitor every now and then, a few hundreds. So we have to do that automatically. And so this is an example of what we've been doing. It's in the area of Natanz in Iran, and you can see two Sentinel-2 images. The first one was taken the 1st of July, 2020. The second one on the right-hand side was taken 2 days after that. And at 10-meter resolution, as you can see, it's very tough to look for differences. You can spend some time looking at that, but it's not really a pleasant job to do it manually. With our change detection algorithm, we found out that there were this blob of white pixels there, which is basically the result of the change detection algorithm. And when you go back to the original images, you can see that there is this red square within which there is a black blob, and this blob basically is one of their buildings exploded in this nuclear facility. And then it was published a few days later on the press. This is an article from the Financial Times explaining that basically there was some obscure explosion there. But with this, the message that you can take home is that with Sentinel-2 and the proper change detection algorithm, you can have a monitoring system that can give you in almost real time warnings about changes, and those changes can be located in area of interest. And if it's the case, all you need to do after that is to ask one of the high resolution satellite imagery provider to task one of the satellites to zoom in to get a better understanding of what's going on there. The second use case I'm going to showcase, and the last one, it was a very recent request from one of our customers that was basically saying that Iran, again, sorry for Iran being like the only country we show today, was installing a new radar system. And we knew a few information about this radar system. So we knew that it was a square of 60 to 70 meters wide. And we knew that it was in a specific area of the country, near the seashore. But the area is quite large, so it's like 9,000 square kilometers. So to look for that manually is quite exhaustive and intensive. So we had to develop a new strategy to do that. And again, based on Sentinel-1 and 2 data, because it's available and it's suitable for this kind of tasks. This is the area of interest. So you can see that in the south east of Iran, near the seashore. Again, if you look carefully, you can see that there are some slight changes between two pictures, but it's not that obvious. When we do the change detection routine, we can see that basically there is a lot of changes in the road, and the road went to a sand-based road to something that looks like asphalt and able to handle large trucks and construction vehicles. And this road leads to basically nowhere. And this is very interesting when you do information intelligence, because roads that are being built and that leads to nowhere usually are leading to somewhere that is hidden. And in this case, at the end of the road, we can see some changes, and those changes are matching the signature of the radar system we were looking for. So by narrowing down this, we were able to find open source data and a snapshot basically on Google Earth, showing the construction site of the radar. So the radar is not there yet, but you can see that they were digging the ground to install the radar, and we are very confident in the radar we are looking for. This end-to-end process, like we were given the assignment by the customer, and the delivery of this was less than 1 day. And it was fairly challenging and fun to work on. So this was my last use case. I will close this by saying that we have a lot of jobs opening, and since it's one of the objective of Swiss Newspace that Dominic created to stimulate the youth and their involvement in the space industry, I would ask you to visit our website and to look for the opportunities where now more than 20 job openings. So I'm pretty sure that you have at least one that you could fit, that can fit your skills. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this outstanding complimentary presentation. I see some Q&A that I will bring, but maybe first let me ask if Sergio was aware of the work developed by Aerospace Lab in the past, or did you have any exchange in the past with SATCERN?
Actually not, and I'm extremely pleased to have seen this presentation because it's fully in line with the world that we are dealing with. So also the fact that they are developing this kind of application using Sentinel data is absolutely interesting, because the geospatial intelligence domain is historically relying on very high resolution data. And the possibility offered by Sentinels at the beginning was a bit under-evaluated, you know, because the resolution is not so good. So with 10 meters resolution, you cannot do something related to security. While what we try to do as SATCERN, and now I see this example from Benoit and other examples, more and more Sentinels data are demonstrating that they can be useful for this kind of applications. So it's a European asset, free, full, open. So it's great to see that actually we can use it also for this kind of activities.
Would you have a question for specific use case, Sergio? I'm opening the floor. Let's make a small panel. Maybe you have a question to ask, Sergio, regarding the presentation of the.
Actually, I saw one interesting question related to me on the question and answer panel on the educational background, that it's opening a quite interesting topic, that's data science. So yeah, the person who raised this question is right. So basically, data science is related to extract knowledge from data. And what we are doing in the geospatial intelligence domain is exactly this. So starting from Earth observation data and more collateral data. So I have seen this example, quite interesting, which maybe Benoit can elaborate more than later on the usage of collateral sources like social media and so on. What we can do is actually to extract insights from this data. So to answer the question, the name data science is now more appealing than guide analyzing images and try to extract some information from, but it's
the same, right?
Yeah, but it's still the same. Even if more and more this kind of job is no more done, let's say, in a manual way. So in one of the two use cases of Benoit, it was actually highlighted as possibility an analyst going and look for these facilities in a manual way. That was and it was happening as such, and not so much time ago, you know. So with a number of image analysts going and looking for something in images and images, well, now the possibilities offered by by data science, by big data, by artificial intelligence is actually supporting, and the change detection chains are the one more useful for this, are actually supporting the job of image analysts. So to answer the question is the profiles we are looking for is computer scientists, image analysts, geospatial experts, and remote sensing experts. So is no more related to only to image analysis, but more and more to all these complementary fields like computer science, data science, and so on. And the next step will be maybe not only to extract insights from the data, but also to extract foresights for the data. So to move a step forward to actually be able to predict what's happening. And maybe here Benoit can spend some words on.
Yeah, sure. So I'm totally in line with what Sergio said. When I was YGT, I felt the need to go back to university, and I enrolled in a master in data science and AI after my initial background in aerospace engineering to make sure that I had the overview of both fields. And now I believe that they are converging, and they are converging because the data fluxes coming from satellites are exploding. When you look at the data generation rate of Sentinel-1, 2, we are talking terabytes every now and then. And this volume of data is also augmented by a lot of commercial constellations that are happening or will happen in the coming few years. And so there has to be a way to process that automatically, or at least to help the human analyst to focus his skill set on added value operations and not mess with the bulk of the data, but focus really where the AI is pointing at probable events. And to do so, there is really a convergence of the classical way of automating this. So we are talking computer vision and computer science, but also bringing information by mixing external sources. And in this field, natural language processing and social media are really helpful to narrow down the search. On top of that, there is also another domain of activity which is kind of not super popular in Europe. It's the signal intelligence domain, where basically the radio frequency signal localization and collection is really helpful as well, and a nice sidekick to optical and radar imagery. In the US, you have commercial ventures that are starting to do that. In Europe, it's still really early stage. But I believe that data science, it's a bit like software 30 years ago. It's something that is transversal and that will touch basically every building blocks of the space industry.
I was interrupted because I don't know, my connection stopped. I don't know why. If I may, I see a question to Benoit. I don't know if this was answered. What are the complications? Oh, I assume it's the implication on privacy, especially for data resolution and algorithm limitation with respect to insurance. I think you have received so many times this question and you're ready to answer.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I understand all the parts of the question, but
the question is there any privacy issue on watching the pool of the people and the solar panels, etc.? I think this is the...
Not that I know of, but we are still in a I would say in a closed test setup, so we are not live yet, and those data are not public. So it's a question that is being addressed, but I'm not a lawyer nor a jurist, but it seems that the legal framework is a bit lagging behind the technology. So I believe that those are very serious questions that are going to be addressed in the coming future by the relevant specialists.
Okay, I think we need to close at a certain point because I see some people are asking, what advice can I have? What advice would you give? I'm reading from Mariam El-Mulat. She's asking a good advice for a PhD fresh graduate in remote sensing and geological risk who wants to get involved in space industry. I would just simply, Aerospace Lab is hiring, so have a look at what is offered there. Maybe any concluding remark, Dominique? Your microphone is switched off.
Well, it was really interesting and very high level. I'm sure a lot of students and young professionals are happy. Really, congratulations to our speakers for your time, your availability. I think Switch to Space try to make something important for the students to help them to find their path. And so thanks a lot to all of you.
Thank you very much. I think we need to make an end to the presentation. Thank you very much for your time, for your clear presentation. I think we gave a real big overview. This topic was a conference in itself. I mean, we covered the SATCOM, quantum, image, downstream. I think we underestimated the time we need for this topic. It's a huge topic at the end that summarizes all what has been said for the full week. I mean, thank you very much for your time. It was not easy for you to find some time, but we very much appreciate your time for students, for future generation. And I'm happy as well to see that people discover each other now. So maybe future collaboration. I would like to thank my colleague at DG Defis, Gilles Lequeux. So people who want to get involved, you mentioned that there are possibility to join this QCI initiative, VitroCZ as well. I wonder if in SATSEN as well, you are looking for people, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Just give a look on the SATSEN website. There's a vacancy page in which that's basically the only channel that it can be used to join SATSEN. And there's from time to time publish some interesting positions and plus some internship ones. So that for sure can be a channel.
They can say that they saw you in Switch to Space presentation. And I would like to thank as well our colleague at GSA who took their time to present. GSA is growing, taking many programs that we saw, GovSatcom, Copernicus, Downstream, SST as well. Thank you very much for everyone. May I ask Dominique to close the meeting because I lost the communication since...
I think it's done, Sabri. I think it's time to conclude. And
just
thanks everybody. Huh?
You can just close the meeting by quit and then it will close for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
And very good evening to all of you. Bye. I hope to count of you next time on Switch 3. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.